build some confidence and get more people interested in different aspects of leadership. And with an end result, maybe we can increase the diversity of the councillors for the New South Wales election in September. So welcome along, everybody. I'm Andrew Mashman, and this is Capable Councillors 2024. It is a program. It's free. It's available online, and you can check it out on our Facebook page, which is Capable Councillors 2024. It's about building your leadership capacity, and I'm really I'm excited about this because many people are in different leadership roles, and many people in different pages of their career. But the stuff that I do on a daily basis is talking about this kind of thing. And even for myself, chilly talking about it, it really helps me every day learn something new about how to work with people, how to make decisions, how to give feedback, how to receive feedback. And these are all really important leadership capabilities. And we're going to go through some of the aspects of that tonight, which will help people hopefully have a better understanding of it and work out where their own strengths and their own capabilities lie, so that you can bring them to the party in your career, in your job, in your community, in all places where we find, people work. And in some ways we have, just at the moment, possibly it might be just a time on the planet, but we have a bit of a void of leadership in a really positive sense of the word. And I think we can do better. So that's why I'm here. I'm motivated to that. And I put together tonight a deck of pieces, which will hopefully tell a bit of a story and get you to come back next week. And I've got a little bit of homework for you to do. Homework's probably a bit of a dirty word for these people here, but the homework will take you on a little bit of a journey of discovery about yourself, and that'll be very useful input to next week's discussion. So that's what it's about. So over 6 weeks, we're looking to enhance and build your leadership capability. I've got a series of guest speakers, which I'll get to very shortly after a short video that we've got as well. And along the way tonight, you're welcome to ask questions as you would. We've got the chat box going on there. I've got a message I was going to send out there waiting to go. There it is. And you can also open your microphones and ask questions along the way too. And where I can answer them, I will. And where I need more time to answer that, I'll come back to you later, maybe directly via the Facebook page as well. So that's what it's about. Why I'm doing this, I suppose, it's a strange place I find myself in. Though I teach this and I do it commercially for people, that's really good. But over the last 12, maybe 18 months or so, I've been watching closely local government interactions in my local area, and just feel that we can maybe can do more. There's more to be done, I think, in this particular case here. And in fact, some of the bits I'll get in today talk more about customer focus and different stakeholders. And I think there's a real opportunity to understand what the needs of the communities are, particularly, and be able to work with communities and around that to make that come together in a better kind of way. So that's what I'm about to. So a few things about me. I moved to the Central West over 20 years ago now. So we did a tree change thing rather than the sea change thing. I do like the trees. We live a little bit north of Bathurst, in amongst the trees. It's really good. A few things about me there. I do ride motorbikes a little bit, and that's an everyday learning experience for me because I'm not very good at it. I'm an intermittent renovator and activist. I think that I've worked for Charles Sturt University for over 25 years now on a casual basis, just doing subjects in business, some in their communication school, and some other training for CSU staff at different times as well. I am very, very interested in how people work and interact and come together to achieve things. And so I follow that. I read quite a lot about that. And one of the last slides in the decks tonight is some reading I've done over the last 18 months, which most of you will find you've probably read half those books, and there might be some other ones there that you go, man, I'm going to listen to that, or I'm going to read that book as it comes up as well. I think the other thing which I can do really well, which is what this course is all about, is connect information for people so that things that may not have been as in context for you or as relevant to you, I can bring that around in a leadership kind of context, and hopefully hope that makes sense. The final thing on that list for me is that organisations often have a real vision of the future, but they struggle with some things, and I believe that people have the answer. So the more you reach out to the people around you in your local community, people that you know through your networking and those kind of things, we can solve most problems that way. It's a really cool kind of thing. And to that end, I've got a group of guest speakers who I know, most of them personally, and they've had an impact in my life in some way. And they can understand and they know all sorts of stuff. And so I'm really excited to have them share their journeys with you as well over time. Last thing on the slide here is if you want to reach out to me, there's my email address there. Please do that as you need. I'm open book on that front. I can try to answer questions wherever I can. Follow me on LinkedIn if you like. I publish and share quite a lot of stuff about leadership, social media, strategy, and project management on LinkedIn. And that's a great place to find many, many other leadership resources as well. And when I do publish stuff, I publish it under the hashtag of I Get Digital. And so if you look on Google, you can search on that and you'll find a range of sources, etc., in that space that you can use in this course and to further your leadership knowledge as it would be as well. So excellent. Hopefully that's good. This is the schedule I've got going on. We've got 6 weeks, a range of topics each kind of week as it's happening. 7:30 start each Tuesday night. Tonight's going to be a little bit shorter, probably an hour, maybe a fraction less than that. But from then on, we'll run probably closer to 90 minutes as we bring in our guest speakers. I'm going to introduce those shortly for you as well. Things that we will run through tonight is just about setting the scene and the context for what leadership's going on, how that affects you, how that affects the people around you, some kind of key things which I think are valuable to know about why leadership exists and why it's important to us in 2024 and in the environment that we might be working in, commercial, not-for-profit, local government as it might be as well, and do that. And then we're going to run through a range of topics which all leaders know about, essentially. All leaders don't apply equally, and they're all things that we can grow our skills in. This is one of the most important things about leadership is you're not born with it. You don't just come with a leader's hat on and away you go, but we grow into these things. And some people are more or less successful at that. Doing some stuff like this and having these discussions and looking at some of the links and sources that I've got will enhance your ability to be awesome in these places with the people that you need to work with. And that allows us to achieve goals that otherwise might elude us. So that's what's going on in that space as well. So I look forward to seeing you back next week as well. Tonight, who are you and what about everyone else? Leadership is a strange thing. Some people talk about a servant relationship. I'm not as excited about that, but you can't lead unless you've got some followers or you've got other people that want to go to the same place as you. So it's really important to understand who different stakeholders might be, talk about why leadership's important, key aspects of leadership as I see them at the moment, and what are the steps we can do to help build your leadership capability. I think one of the big things here is if we do things the same as we did yesterday, we're not going to get any different results to what we did. And it's super important to be moving forward because if you're not moving forward in the current environment, you're really going backwards because other people, other parties, other organizations are moving one way or another forward. And if we apply the same logic and thinking that we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, which would be seriously dangerous, we're going to end up with results that just do not fit the current environment that we all work in these days. So we need to be more agile. We're going to talk about agility as we get into that. And I'm using my stand-up desk tonight, so I'll hopefully be able to demonstrate that to you while we go. There's a number of people who I follow fairly closely. Simon Sinek is one of those. Brene Brown's another one. I've got them listed at the end of this deck also, so you can take a look at some of the material that they have. And I thought we'd kick off tonight with this particular bit of video from Simon that highlights the courage aspect of leadership. Let me just duck out to that and we'll get that one happening. Just before I play that, I'm going to have to plug my headphones in and make that work out for you. It's going to be a nod if you can't hear.
And you said there's articles written about this, like what are the 3 most important characteristics of a leader? Vision, charisma, and I've met some wonderful, fantastic leaders who are not big Steve Jobs visionaries.
Sure.
And I've met some amazing leaders who don't seem to have sort of that bounce off the wall charisma. They're sort of the quiet one sitting in the corner. Mm-hmm. I am comfortable saying, however, that great leaders, the best leaders I've ever met, they will have courage. Mm-hmm. Leadership is extremely difficult. Sometimes it's thankless, it's lonely. When things go right, you have to give away the credit. When things go wrong, you have to take all the responsibility. Well, that sucks. Yes. And it's sometimes the gains are sometimes not immediate. And it takes tremendous amount of courage to lead. What's more, we talk about integrity. I think integrity takes courage, to speak truth to power, to do the right thing in the face of overwhelming pressure to do the opposite. All of these things take courage, which I think begs the question, then where does courage come from? I don't believe that courage is an internal fortitude where you dig down deep and find the courage. I think courage is external. It's like, a world famous trapeze artist has the courage to try a brand new death-defying act for the first time with a net. They wouldn't try it without the net. It's the net that gave them the courage. And I think so too is it for human beings, that the quality of our relationships give us courage. You talk to folks in uniform who do heroic things. They'll never say it was for God or country. It was for the person to the left or the person to the right. It was the quality of the relationships. And so for us to build courage, what we have to do is invest in relationships. Because when you're facing a very difficult situation, an ethical challenge, a work challenge, whatever it is, all we need is one person in our lives who says, I've got your back. I believe in you. You have to do this. It's the right thing to do. And if everything goes sideways, don't worry, I'll be there with you. I mean, even just talking about it, you feel like you have renewed energy. And so if you have one person in your life who can provide that for you at work or at home, you'll be amazed the amount of courage you have to do the right thing and to lead.
There you go. So that's a piece from Simon Sinek there. I think that's really interesting. I think the courage thing is very true, because it's difficult to step up and make these kind of things happen. Just get the right page back again.
This AI tool will take your idea and create a complete book, complete with design, images, layout, everything, including the content, literally in.
Sorry about that. There you go. And to that end, that gives me a great place to introduce some of the guest speakers who are going to be with us over the next couple of weeks while hanging out for as well. All of these people have exhibited courage in their life. I know most of them personally, and I've had all sorts of different interactions with them over time. And that's why they're going to be great. They're all approachable, authentic leaders. And during their sort of sessions, they're going to talk a little bit about the topic of the night, probably, but also talk about their journey, about how they got to where they are. And I think what this does for me particularly is makes it accessible for all of us to do, amazing things. And some of us are already on that journey, which is great, but there's times we can all be kind of more upstanders to make that happen. So Michelle Price-Jones, mum, small business owner, board director, and a first-term councillor in the Central West. So interesting journey there, and many barriers to overcome, and lots of learnings about how women can behave in the local government area, actually. So a bit to learn there. Ursula, a friend of mine, Sydney-based. The thing that blows me away about her is she went around the round the world yacht race, probably just on 10 years ago now. That's a picture of her in the boat out in the middle of the Indian Ocean, I believe. And to do that is significant. It's an amazing thing to do, where you feel that personal kind of isolation and pressure to get stuff done. And yet she thrives through that. She's a real champion for women in leadership, and very smart lady. Jessica, who I haven't met, but we've been chatting a lot online. Her journey is different again. She's a Central West-based lady who also has founded the Bullyology and written a book called The Upstander, and has got a great TED Talk. You can catch up with her, link in that space as well. And one of the things about leadership is there's a real ethic to be an upstander more often. There's a lot of things that happen around us on a daily basis. Getting the kids ready for school, we just might choose to sit on our hands about, but really we should jump in early and try and make that change as soon as we can about different things as well. Paz, Melbourne-based, and dispute resolution and problem solver is her thing. In my interactions with her, she gets on board, she's committed. She's like she's 100% person who's in there making things happen, and really good. Rich Evans, local media entrepreneur. I've known Rich for over 30 years. He's done all sorts of cool things. He has his own take on the world, and he's really happy to share that with other people. And so he'll wrap us up. He's a communications guru, and that's our last topic, and that's where we'll meet up with Rich as well. So stay tuned for those guys. I think it's going to add real value to what we're going to talk about here, and really drive home the opportunities that exist around leadership for all of us to make that happen. Just on the left, we've got a bit of a word cloud there, which has got so many aspects of leadership. There's a lot going on in the leadership space. And in fact, maybe there's more than we should be trying to take on board. Certainly there'd be a lot of pressure to get good at some things, but leadership has such an impact that we need to think kind of broadly about how we can be involved in that. And for me, leadership can be a position-based leadership role, but it's likely that the people you surround yourself with are also leaders in their own right. They're people that are willing to step forward. They're happy to share ideas. You've created, and they've created, an environment which is happy for ideas to be shared. And it's a pretty cool thing. All of you will have worked on teams at different times that they just rock, just stuff happens. The ideas come out, we can get things done. And then you will have all also worked on teams where it's a bit of a struggle. It's a lot of micromanagement going on. There's a bit of email checking happening, and we're just not getting anywhere to make things happen. So leadership is looking for a higher level of engagement than that, and what we call synergy in making things happen. I think the couple of points off this page that I do really like is that sometimes leadership is spectacular, and I'm just trying to think of the stuff that happened around the bushfires in Australia here, and that particular person's name. Gosh, and I'm going to ask Brad for that. Brad, what's the guy who was the fire commander during the 2021 fires and stuff?
Shane Fitzgibbon.
That's it too. And I should have had that written down. So thank you for being there for that one. And so he did an amazing job of staying calm, rallying the forces, dealing with the media, saving lives, saving property, and a whole bunch of things like that. And people were quite in awe of that. And in fact, their enormous didn't extend to people who didn't look like they were at least having that much effort around fires and stuff that were going on. So there was a bit of turmoil about that one as well. Sometimes leadership is just absent, and we can see things unraveling and going badly, and people are leaving and the turnover is really high, and nobody's getting answers, customers aren't getting value. It's just really problematic when that's not going on for us. So we're looking to fill that void to go on, and that stuff doesn't change unless people step up to make it happen as well. And to that end, that last point there, again, if you're not moving forward in some way by learning new skills, teaching other people, mentoring other people, coaching other people, maybe to get them to help move forward to unleash their own strengths, then you're probably going backwards. And backwards in a fast-moving world is a really dodgy place. I love this definition. I love this photo particularly. This is where I get my inspiration for leadership. It's a Tony Robbins piece. Not the world's best-known leadership author, but he's out there. He's a big, imposing figure, which has got its own benefits, I guess, for him. But this is some of the material he said. I'm just going to pick out some words here to tell you about. Leadership is the ability to inspire a team. So leadership is not about you or me, as it would be as well, but we want to take a group of people on a journey towards a certain place, which is the goal thing. Leaders are usually quite goal-orientated. They understand what goals are. Some might be very quantitative about it. Some might be much more qualitative and communicative about it in a Richard Branson style fashion as well. But we're moving people towards a place that they would like to be, and we'll talk more about goals when we get towards the end of it as well. Leadership is also about how you choose to live your life, about not being a bystander, being more of an upstander, about being a good communicator. I'd like to think about it. We did some training for some dairy farmers recently, and for those guys, their house is on the property, it's near the factory where they're milking the cows and stuff. And every morning when they go out at like 4:30 in the morning, they got to kick open the door and put on a happy face on and go out and motivate their team to be milking cows in the drudgerous cold. So how you choose to live your life, how you choose to inspire other people, how you choose to motivate other people has a massive impact on how effective you can be in otherwise just even the dairy thing, otherwise pretty tough conditions as well. So leadership also is about influencing without manipulating. It's about inspiring and helping others achieve their best selves and building a skill so that they can get some goals up along the way. So we're moving towards a space, and we're wrapping our arms around the people, and we're dragging them along, maybe kicking and screaming a bit, to inspire them about where they can be and what they can do. And certainly for a long time now, I've worked in education, and the most sensational times has been more around vet education. But we get a group of, it was in Sydney, vet course, 1 year long, outside of the uni space. So people who came to it were a little bit different in many ways. But they would come in, they're wild and woolly kids, 17, 18, maybe 19 or so when they started the course. It was a 1 year long course. And by the end of the year, they're walking down a red carpet to get their graduation plaques and certificates. And they transpose from being, wild kids, I guess, at the end of the day, to being adults with huge amounts of potential. So it's extremely motivating to do that. I played a very small role in that. Many other people played a small role in that. And out of that, we get substantial outcomes, which can make such a difference to the lives of individuals and to all of the places that those people work now in their careers, as it would be as well. So really nice definition. Always think about that. If you're in a tough spot, you go, well, what can I do to lift up people here? It might be a flat spot in a meeting. It might be a sad occasion or whatever. What can you do to lift the mood? What can you do to move people forward to make those things happen as well? So a couple of things here. This is about everyone else. This particularly comes from my marketing side, I guess. And in the marketing space, I'm really passionate about customers. I did forget to mention when we kicked off, we run a few Airbnbs around the Central West here as well. And we've got just about over 1,150 reviews now. So that's 1,150 reviews I've had to write in about 140 characters or so. So that's pretty tight. But we look forward to writing those reviews to tell people how they went. So we're giving a lot of feedback. We also get a lot of really positive feedback from the reviews that we receive from other people as well. Some people, though, they want this, and a different group of people want that. And we have to be a little bit careful. And when someone books our places, we ask them, oh, what are you up to in Bathurst? Because if it's a work crew, we want to give them certain things. They might want access to the barbecue. They'll definitely want dark coloured towels. They'll want the bottom shelf of the fridge lifted high so they can put a case of beer in it. There's a range of things that kind of happen in that space. If people are coming in for a wedding reception, then we might do different things around the house and increase the number of towels per bed and things like that. So understanding who the different people are you have to deal with as a leader is a really important part of your success at the end of the day. On the page here, I've just put a bunch of circles down because there's a heap of stuff going on. If we're talking about local government, we're often talking about, oh, we're here to represent the community, or the council's doing something for the community. Community is a nice way to look at things, but it's a very, very difficult monster to understand and to deliver value to. And by understanding your customers, you can understand what kind of value they want a little bit. So within the community, we have a range of different aspects there. And so if you're thinking about maybe running for local council this year, if you've got a business that's looking to raise funds from the local community, if you're a business that's selling products and services into the local community, it's really important to understand who the different stakeholders in that community are and to target your offer down to the needs and wants of the groups that are in that space. The green circle up the top there talks about customers, clients, and even patients. And certainly from the health system through to the commercial businesses, we are talking about people nearly on an individual level who have particular wants and needs. And the better we understand what those are, and in fact, the better we understand what their expectations are, the better we can manage those expectations and have our ability to share our vision, to lead, to unite people around the compelling goals we talked about, etc., increases dramatically. If we try to be everything for everybody, we're largely going to fail on that front because everybody wants a lot of different things and individuals want quite specific things. So what I want and what other people want, often way far apart. And we're going to learn a bit more about that when we do some profiling stuff for next week, which is part of your homework for this week as well. So the customer focus thing is really important. Breaking things down into the people that you want to lead or you want to have an impact with is super important as well. And just going out there to say, hey, got to do this for everybody is going to make it a very, very difficult challenge to be successful at the end of the day. So we need to group like-minded people together and get the best value out of that we can in terms of creating value for what they're looking for and what they want. More about that as the course progresses as well. A little bit of a breath there for me talking also. And we've got a few guys online who'll have some know about some inspirational leaders or leaders that they did like, or maybe some leaders that they were less flashed about. Does anyone want to share with that or contribute to that discussion? Tell me about leaders who have impressed you. And particularly, I'm interested in, when did you know that that person was a leader? I'll give you one just to get going while people are thinking about that. One of my I'm a bit intrigued by is Richard Branson. So the Virgin thing, I've read a couple of his books, understood that. The thing I like about him as a leader is that he doesn't really stand on a soapbox and do stuff, though he will stand on the wing of a plane and do things. But when he stands on the wing of a plane, he can encourage anyone within 100 meters to jump up on that wing with him. That is a pretty amazing thing. So Richard Branson's ability to communicate to others what he would like to achieve and what he would like to see achieved, it's pretty amazing. And out of that, they've built airlines, record sales, a whole bunch of different things around the world. And he's been very successful about that. For me, Richard Branson's an awesome communicator because he can bring people along for the ride for that. There's all sorts of different examples of that. Back over to you guys. Who else has got an example of a leader that they like? Nelson Mandela's popped into the chat box there. Excellent.
Yeah, those big ticket. Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Barack Obama's obviously another big name that people, and it's interesting because they're all are quite big figures, whereas I see myself as a leader as you mentioned it very early on in the piece, servant leadership or empathetic, I think is probably a better word. Quiet, humble, empathetic, and looking after people's other people's needs, which I think Barack Obama to me was very much a bigger picture, outward, what he was a servant, maybe not servant leadership, but he was a
A
servant
servant of
to
the
the people
country, I
that he
think
was.
would be
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think he's a really good example. I do like his wife, the way she both communicates as well and interacts with people. You can see why people are attracted to them, I think, to that front. And that allows them to, bring up issues which are maybe harder for different groups to understand or to get traction on. And it's pretty cool as well. You definitely don't have to be standing at the front of the room to be the leader. That's a really important point, which we'll make along the way as well. I think someone else is going to dive in there with a leader story as well.
Yeah, mine's a bit close to home, but I was able to watch it at very close quarters, being a major supplier to them. But I saw Mark Allison take over as the head of elders when it was pretty much on its deathbed,
Okay.
and they were very clear about their 8-point plan. They were very transparent, and most of all, and this has resonance with the good to great sort of Kimberly Clark Mills as well, they sold the iconic head office properties. They stripped out everything that was almost the tangible evidence of the historic company and
Sacred
repurposed
cows,
it
maybe.
to survive. Yeah, and so they turned it round. Certainly, I had a lot of skin in the game because I persuaded my global headquarters to lift our credit sort of limit with them to help them get through, which they did. But it was dire. It was totally dire. Everyone had them out for the count, and it was methodical and very inspirational.
Yeah, perfect. And that's really good too. And I like that because that is a great story also because, and I think the sacred cow thing might play that, elders long held traditional, famous brand in Australia for all sorts of reasons, but times have changed in many ways and they were probably somewhat living in the past. And a new person had to come along, have a fresh vision, bring the team along for the ride, and they have to get on that journey. They can't just talk about it. They have to get on the journey. Otherwise they're gone, aren't they? They're just into the dustbins of history as well. So awesome.
But what
story.
was really interesting as well, and really interesting, is that the leader that he replaced, most people in the organization would have taken a bullet for. They would have said that the immediate past CEO was, in the trenches with them, over the hill, let's go, guys, we've got this. And he was also seen as a hugely powerful leader. But I think they were both a really good example of different leaders required for different circumstances.
Yeah, and that's really true too, and that's very interesting. So it had the commitment, but for somehow they just weren't nailing the outcomes that they needed, and that's definitely one of the aspects of agile leadership is we need to be able to kind of not flip and flop this story, but change our focus depending on what's going on around us. And the world, it's pretty well documented everywhere that things are changing and moving at extreme speed. So things that you did just a very short period ago have to be checked to see if they're relevant for the current world. And we have to think about that. And certainly leaders, and you might call dyed in the wool or other things or very traditional in nature, are possibly not moving fast enough for the current environment and hence struggle for that one too. Excellent. Thank you for that one. Does anyone else have another leader story or someone that they aspire to or like? Another one I wanted to mention too, just my son's local soccer team. For a number of years now, they've been coached by the same guy. He's a quiet guy, but he's highly respected by all of the players. They're young men. It's a very formative time of their life as well. And I think to that end, he's been able to get them together. They're a diverse bunch of young teenage boys, which I'm sure I'd be like herding cats for sure. And they come together, they play an awesome soccer match, and they appreciate his input. They appreciate each other's input, and it's really going forward. So leadership can happen in all sorts of places and at all sorts of levels. And I think that quiet persona, but persistence in being there in terms of maybe Brad's example or the soccer coach's example or the goal-focused orientation of Sarah's example are things that we go, oh, okay, maybe we can count on this person. This person's actually here. They can make it happen, and let's get behind them and make it happen. And at the end of the day, nobody gets behind leaders. They're going to fall over. It's very difficult to go it alone. Michael Jordan can't win a basketball game on his own. He needs a team. He needs coaches. He needs physios. He needs all sorts of people to make that happen. And that's part of his story to make it work out as well. So cool things. Thank you very much for those examples. That's great. Leadership, not position related. Traditionally, and again, in my history, which is getting a little old and long in the tooth these days, leaders were at the top of the pyramid. They were there. They worked hard for many years. They were politically savvy. They got to that. And with that management role came a kind of leadership mantle, I suppose, in some ways at the end of the day. But things were very much more management focused. So we're going to get into what is the difference between management and leadership in just a second to make that one happen. These days, I would expect, and everything from my uni students when they're doing projects and working together, I expect them to step up as to lead parts of projects and that sort of thing. So leadership is for everybody. Everybody can get involved in it. And I know a number of people who are on here tonight, and you all exhibit those talents. And the fact that you're actually here tonight to learn about a few different things or how to fine tune those talents indicates also that learning attitude, which is really a key part of leadership as it would be as well. I told you about the dairy farmers example. I think it's a personal attitude. I think it's how you choose to start your day, how you choose to head on board for that first Teams meeting or the Zoom meeting, even when maybe your world's not that awesome at the particular time. It's about the attitude you bring to the party and the fact that you're looking to be curious. I'm very big on curious at the moment rather than being judgmental, and that can really open doors for the different things that can happen in your leadership day as well. We're looking to create synergy. So synergy is the 1 + 1 = 3, 4, or 5, or hundreds of percent equals several hundreds of percent. And if synergy didn't exist, then we could do everything on an individual basis. One person could do this, another person could do that. We get 100% out of each person. We get 200% worth of work done. But what happens when we have a high-performing team with, leaders that are there making it happen? We've got goal direction, got people being lifted up and learning and stuff like that. Is that, 3, 4, or 5 people can create the work or do the work of 6, 7, or 8, or maybe 10 people because they're humming together, they backstop each other, they make things come together. And when that's not happening, the effort that you put into kind of guiding and making that happen is a little bit wasted. So we're looking to create synergy in our community groups. We're looking to create it in our government organisations. We're looking definitely to create it in our commercial organisations as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening. Down the bottom of the page there, when there's a lack of leadership, we see a kind of a vacuum. And when we have a vacuum, mistrust grows massively. When there's a lack of communication, suspicion pops up all over the place. When there's a lack of goal achievement, or we talk big things about big goals, but we never ever reach them, there's a real problem with people trusting the organisation, if it happens to be an organisation. There's a real trouble with the organisation maybe getting funding and purpose and commitment by the people. And some people, if they work in an organisation like that, might just be there for the paycheck that happens every month, rather than the enthusiasm and the impact they can make for being part of that, whatever organisation they're part of. People could be attracted to organisations where they know that they can make a physical difference to things and make that happen. In some organisations, one of the obvious indications of a lack of leadership is probably high turnover in staff. And for many organisations in the current time, it's really, really difficult to get staff. So that little bit of extra time, effort, investment in and around leadership and motivating around people around leadership can save you a huge amount of money and a huge amount of turmoil and a huge amount of team building that might often be impacted from that kind of that vagueness of leadership or that lack of traction around the leadership that exists in some organisations. So I've got a little journey here on leadership versus management. It's one of my favourite things when I teach project management. We do quite a bit of this stuff in that space as well. In the perfect world, and if it was back pre-2000 and you're talking to project managers, they go, oh, here, look, I've got an awesome project plan. Here's my Gantt chart. This is what's going to happen. And it would be dictated that that is exactly what's going to happen. But maybe they were a bit deluded then, and they certainly are now if they were to come up with the same strategy. When you involve people in your projects and your plans and your organisations, etc., things get infinitely more complicated. People have different needs and wants and desires. They have different work ethics. They have different personality profiles. We have a range of things that actually have to be managed if you want something to happen in the plan. And so people have to be alerted to that. The core job of managers is to keep projects or tasks on track, managing you to your job description, which would be pretty right. They want to solve problems. They want to get things going. They want to avoid conflict usually and make trade-offs, certainly in the project space, concerning time, cost, and scope, which is what they do. Leaders, on the other hand, are in a kind of different camp as it would be at the end of the day. And some of that stuff might actually seem a little bit mundane to them at the end of the day, but leaders particularly are focusing on, wow, what else could we do here? What's the innovative approach to doing this? And how do we adapt to changing conditions? And we know every single day there's new things changing in our world. If it's not interest rates, it's the political uncertainty in other parts of the world. It could be climate. There's a range of things going on which are affecting the way nearly every single business organization impacts things. Leaders need to communicate changes. So one of the key capabilities of a leader is to be able to communicate well, in fact, fantastically. And certainly in my experience in organizations, communication leaves a bit to be desired at the end of the day. Lots of organizations think about communication as a broadcast thing. They just want to talk out or yell at people or send them an email and do an email blast or have a non-interactive town hall meeting where they go, oh, it's a town hall meeting, but we're going to talk to you. You're going to listen. And people are kind of glossing over, their eyes rolling back in their heads, and they're losing the plot during those kind of sessions. If we truly want to communicate, we need to engage people and we need to get some feedback. And even as I'm seeing it now, I've got a bit of head nodding and shaking and whatever else going on there to understand there's something happening here as well. Leaders have to respond to threats and opportunities are the way forward, obviously. And threats are things that can bring your organization or your business down. And there's many examples of organizations kind of doing an ostrich thing with their head in the sand, not thinking about what could possibly happen to them or responding to the actual things that are happening to them, and not reading the room, not understanding the tone of the target audience or the customers that are out there to make that happen. This is a piece from one of my project management textbooks, which again, I'm a bit focused on. And in my life, not that I've been a very rebellious employee of people, but I have worked for myself for now 24 years or so, which maybe indicates that a little bit. But in my history, again, people and managers particularly liked checklists. And checklists can be very useful. They help us get some stuff done, and that's really great. So that's okay. Checklists are good. Makes a list, gets priorities, works out who's doing what when. That's pretty good too. We start to go a bit south for me on this front too. But when you're working in the present all the time, you're solving today's problems. You're not really viewing what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or in the future as it comes along. And that can be problematic when the world is changing very quickly around you. The maintaining the status quo is really problematic for me. Status quo is awesome. Some entities and people and jobs are protected in the status quo. In fact, they're geared to the status quo. We hire people like the person that's doing the hiring. We leave the structures in place for way too long. We're inflexible to the environment. Status quo is about how we do things around here. And between that and the next point, which is about reinforcing the culture, when you rock up to a new job and they say, oh, this is how we do things around here, you know this is a red flag for being an adaptive, flexible, agile style organisation. Nevertheless, those things said, organisations who want to be productive and get stuff done have to have elements of these things. Otherwise, it'd be a chaotic arrangement. But when they don't want to leave that behind to move forward and to adapt to changing conditions, then they've got real difficulties with that. Some people, again, this is the way we do things around here. That's a defending of the processes, and that's often problematic. Processes are good when they serve the organisation well until they don't, and then it starts to get really pear-shaped for you. One of my old bosses, his example for that was when you're in a trench, you've got to know when to stop digging, and that's very true. You're in a rut and you're not going anywhere by digging a deeper hole. Leaders, on the other hand, and as I said, the Richard Branson version example up there too, is communicating vision. I think Branson's been awesome at that. I think Obama was very, very good at it as well. I think if we go to the football space, I think Wayne Bennett, strangely enough, the super coach man, is very, very good at that too. And lots of people like him because of his ability to take a group of kind of wild NRL players and turn them into a winning team. And he's done that many times in his career too. So he's got a vision about what a team could do. Aiming for the horizon, we're looking to the future rather than being in the present, taking calculated risks. No one wants to take crazy risks because that's very dangerous. It can be massively expensive. but we're working out what the limits are there. What are the probabilities? What's the likelihood? What's the downside if this actually does happen to us, so we can get that happen? Interestingly enough, many organizations, when they start as startups, they're very keen to take crazy risks at the time, but as they mature and they become maybe listed companies, they get very, very much more conservative about the way they go. And then some other startup comes and pips them at the post. So we need to keep a balance between the status quo and what risks we should take for anything as it would be too. I love it. Challenging tradition. And again, one of the Branson stories, which goes back a long time now, so no one in this group will remember it, but he cut the corners off credit cards at one point. That was an innovative strategy at the particular point in time. So it was a credit card, which is normally largely square with a corner cut off it. They went gangbusters. They signed up lots and lots of people, and they just did credit cards differently. The Westpac, who supplied the Virgin credit card, I believe at the time, their user terms and conditions was a 94-page DL fine print article, and the Virgin one was 16 pages. How do you do that? It's just different. And anyhow, people back in that period of time, it's probably the 90s, I think, adopted that particular, generic product. It was a credit card. Gosh, there's a few of them around. They liked the Virgin credit card because they appeared to be doing things differently. They challenged tradition, and they actually got away with it at that particular point in time for doing things. Striving for innovation. Innovation is a fascinating thing for nearly any organisation. If you go quickly surfing around the web and look at a few organisational business pages, local government, even probably in the medical service as well, they'll talk about their innovation strategies. They'll talk about their innovation leaning, etc. We find innovation is extremely hard to do. It is very, very difficult, and people talk about it way more than it actually happens. They have so many rules around how the people work, that how we lead, how we're going to manage things, that innovation can be very, very difficult to do. If you want to adapt to changing times, you need to be quite innovative, and you often need to look at different parts of the world to find out where the innovation's happening in that space as well. So a couple of key things: get on the leadership bus and make that happen as well. I like this 2 bits here. One I got today off LinkedIn, so you can look for leadership first on LinkedIn. This is they publish daily a new piece about something to do with leadership. This is about a bit over nearly 6 million followers on that particular page. LinkedIn's a great source for lots of leadership stuff as well. So Steve Jobs has apparently said management is about persuading people to do things that they don't want to do, while leadership is about inspiring people to do things that they never thought they could. And I really like that. That's a real uplifting, fits in with the leadership definition thing. And I hear from Steve Jobs, I think he motivated many people. Many have bought iPhones and love them, and all the different Apple products, and love them and caress them and touch them, and they think they're beautiful. I hear he's a very difficult man to deal with on the other scale, but regardless of that particular set of personality traits he had, he motivated lots of people towards the Apple product, and people have got Apple tattoos. I do not have an Apple tattoo, so I do not love Apple that much, but there's people out there who do have Apple tattoos because they love that brand and they love what Steve Jobs did for that particular company, which he founded originally as well. Last one on that page there too, leadership is about identifying change, what's going on, and aligning stakeholders with that new direction. So all of those people we looked at on that earlier page there, how can we take them on board with that too? How can we align or communicate or get a community on board for, what your town should look like or feel like, or how it should behave, or what the expectations of that would be? How can we get our commercial company on board with moving into digital currencies maybe? How can we get our less customer-focused organisation moving far towards doing great things for customers that they perceive to be exceptional value and want to do more of with you, want to support you on that journey, and they want to become actual advocates for your brand as well. These would be really good things as well. Last part of that there is overcoming hurdles and realising new objectives. So that goals moving, we're finding new ways to do things, we're working our way around things and solving problems on the run, rather than being stopped by them, frustrated by them, procrastinating about them. We're moving forward. And in there's a group of people called growth hackers. They do lots of startups at the end of the day, and two of their mottos are about failing fast or failing forward. And I love failing fast is good because it means you learn what's wrong, you try to fix it very quickly. I like failing forward. Sounds like my park run experience because I'm a bit clumsy and I fall over a bit, but I don't hit the ground because I get my foot back out and I keep stumbling forward on that front. And I learn to pick up my feet when that's going on, or I learn to breathe more, or I learn to pick up my gait or something like that. So failing forward is really a good thing rather than being paralyzed by even failing at all. And leadership is definitely about taking those risks, moving forward and learning from the things that don't go as we actually plan to make that one happen. So a bit of a crossroads here with my project management world and leadership world. We have this concept called agile leadership, which is really good. The agile space in leadership is super important. Back in about 2001 or so, a bunch of software guys, who would have thought this agile thing was going to be a great thing to do. And it turns out that we've adopted it in all sorts of different areas of the business. And I think if you were to want to hang your hat on some aspect of leadership that's worthwhile pursuing in a kind of big way, it's be the agile leadership thing. And we're going to watch a little video on this one as well. Things that come out of the agile philosophy are about people collaborating. In a traditional management space, we would see managers being looked to and respected for having all of the ideas. And in fact, many organizations still struggle to kind of crowdsource ideas from within their own organization. Collaboration opens up opportunities for people to work together in ways that normal structures wouldn't do it. Agile people are good communicators. We communicate with all sorts of different people. We give and get feedback as well. There's high levels of trust in the organization or in the teams that are agile, and high level of autonomy. So we're going outside of the organizational structure often to get roles done. People step up into roles, they volunteer to be in roles, and they look to make things happen. There's a big, and again, if we go back to Taylorism and the way organizations have been designed, that was all about effort put in. If you could get a guy to work for 8 hours a day, he could put out X many widgets, as it would be. In the agile space, we're very outcome orientated. So what is the outcome? What is the best way to get there? Do we need to do 8 hours a day for 10 people, which is 80 hours? Or actually, if we collaborate together, can we get an outcome for that customer in just 40 hours maybe? So a different mechanism to do it. And certainly that avoids issues of micromanagement and stuff like that as well. It's responsively flexible to roll with the punches. And if you think about someone who's agile and not too stiff, and it's a bit of a side story, but I'll tell it anyhow, is years ago, I did a seminar with people from NIDA, the National Drama Academy, and it was a bit of a watershed moment in my life. They said, "Oh, okay, everyone's got to get up. We're going to teach you how to public speak." And I went, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's all right. I'm not really a great public speaker. I don't think it's very good." Anyhow, stand there, legs apart a little bit, loosen your knees, loosen your ankles, so you can move around, loosen your hips, and start to dodge and stuff like that. And that's kind of agility as it stands. The thing it does when you're a public speaker, if you move a lot, is that you find yourself not subject to the glares and the peers and the tough questions, and unable to move away from how that's impacting you. Lecterns are problematic for public speakers because when you stand behind a lectern, you usually grab hold of both sides of it and you stand there and look at it. Everybody in the room can focus on you. Steve Jobs is an awesome agile leader and speaker, probably because he would move around and he breathes and he does a turn and he's collecting his thoughts and he's making that happen. So that's that, for me, that's that agility coming out in your day-to-day movements in life to make things happen as well. So lots of stuff. Last point on that one there is ideas from anywhere in the organization, so not just from management. This time I'm going to more successfully go out and watch this video, and that should go pretty well.
Agile leadership. How a great leader thinks. I don't have all the answers. Working in a team makes things better. I can relinquish control. Mistakes are learning opportunities. I believe in people. What a great agile leader does. Prioritizes, empowers, creates a safe environment, communicates regularly, keeps the team aligned around shared purpose, walks their talk, course corrects quickly, creates community across teams. Where to start to create an agile culture? The top 5 tips for leaders. Focus. Collectively focus your energy on a few key things. Set standards. Set your aspiration about how work will be done and clearly communicate that. Don't tolerate less. Shadow of the leader. Look at yourself first. Your own habits and ways of thinking are shaping the behaviour of others around you. Pay attention. Become masters at encouraging agile behaviour and discouraging the behaviours that you want to move away from. Start small. The easiest way to change a habit is to partner a new behaviour with an existing activity. Small routines that infiltrate your business can be a catalyst for change. To learn more about organisational culture, visit Walking the Talk.
There we go. We'll stop that one right there. Let's get back to that right slide. Perfect. So a few good points there about agility, and that's going to populate some of our. Well, I'll have to get cracking a bit because I didn't mean to keep you back quite this long tonight. So part of your leadership capacity, which is really what we're going to delve in over the coming weeks of this space. And I've got a little bit of homework for you next week, which I'll get to you shortly, but we're going to do a survey which will help you understand your personality profile. Some people are reluctant to do these. They can be a bit challenging to read, I suppose. I'm less worried about what it says about you, but I think it's really important to understand that other people are very different to you and very different motivations for doing things. So we're going to discuss that in more depth next week. You guys will do the survey in between. The other thing, which I'm a super big fan of, is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is linked with all sorts of high performance behaviors around leadership, etc. And I've got a survey link for you to do that one as well. I've already put a PDF of this up on the Facebook page, so you can download it there with the links in it. So that'll be the best place to get that. And if anybody needs it directly via Messenger or something like that, I'm happy to do that as well. A couple of other things. Values are super important for leaders. We need to understand what our values are, what are important to us, so that we can maximize them in our decision making, etc. Mindset, we're going to talk about growth mindset versus closed mindset, which is a really interesting piece of kind of knowledge for how to get through the day, how to tackle challenging situations as well. A little bit more on stakeholder management, giving and receiving feedback, and communications and building trust, which will take us out after the end of the 6-week period as well. This is another activity which we'll get to next week, which we come to, and I'll get you to have a think about it between now and then. What would your friends say, or friends and colleagues say, that you're particularly good at? And then what would they say that you might want to work on as well? So part of the leadership is to understand your own strengths. The personality profiling tool and the emotional intelligence tool will give us a few clues into that. But there's other things we can do to understand where we sit in the space that we're maybe working. There's another tool called Johari Window, which is a really cool way to uncover some of these things as well. So you can Google Johari Window if you're interested in as well. Goals, we need to set some of those, and as we work through the decks over coming weeks, we're going to do that. I've just put a couple examples there for you and one for me, I guess, at the end of the day. Because leaders are goal-orientated, the goal thing is about how do we engage other people in kind of our vision or our constructed vision, which might be a vision of, you know, a range of people who've come together to think about things. One of the things about the goal, and if we use the SMART acronym to create goals, is that it allows other people to, well, firstly, to communicate the goal in a way that other people can understand it, and it allows other people to buy into my goal as well. So the SMART acronym is about specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And I've just given a couple of examples there. I've written one for myself, which I've been working on for a number of weeks now as well. But deliver 6 online sections between 60 and 90 minutes on current leadership topics with the aim of increasing participants' confidence. The participants' confidence thing is a bit of a wishy-washy kind of goal. It'd be quite hard to measure that. I could do a pre-session start survey, which we could have done today, but I will probably do some kind of survey at the end. I'll get some data from that. If you can't measure it, it pretty much didn't happen. So we're looking for ways to measure the goals that we set for ourselves. I really encourage people to think about the goals they want to do. Don't make them too big. Don't make them unattainable. Get stuff done and some things that can help you. So I've written a little bit of a goal for you guys as well that might be relevant to you this coming week. So before the 28th of the 5th, which is next Tuesday night, I will complete the personal profile and emotional intelligence quizzes and subscribe to one influencer, a leadership influencer on the social media channel. So we have the aspects of both timely, doable, useful in terms of getting that, and maybe you could even share that goal with some of the other people that you're working with as well. Tonight, I wanted to finish up with a couple of points about diversity, because that really was the standout motivator for me to work out why I should do this. Back when I was kind of confronted by this, I suppose I'll have an opportunity to step up into a leadership role and do some things. But for me, partially I'm part of the problem. But my expertise is maybe in talking to people and sharing the leadership ideas. So I've chosen to go that way. Diversity is super important in organisations, and there's been a lot of research, and there's a couple of links you can click on here to further your understanding of this one as well. But they've proven in a number of cases that diversity enhances any organisation's ability to make decisions, to assimilate different information, to have many different perspectives on the things that are confronting the organisation or the firm. And I guess the opposite of diversity is having a very much a more monoculture, which is people that are educated the same, have the same historic lived experience, and they see things in a very particular kind of way. And that's ultimately, in a very dynamic world that we live in, it can be very, very difficult for it as well. So there's a bit of stuff there points to the success of diversity in organisations. Part of that one is an organisation which I also like to follow quite a lot from, and will be interesting to most of you people. It's called Atlassian. They're an Australian software startup. For about, I think, probably 2010 or so, they kicked off. They're a multi-billion-dollar company now operating all over the world. Software like Confluence and Jira, which you may have seen across your desktops in your workplace or something like that. They're super successful. One of the things that they do, which really indicates their kind of agile, 21st century view of leadership, is they share everything they discover. So they have a thing called the Team Playbook. Anybody who's managing a team can subscribe to that. And every time Atlassian finds something new about how a team behaves or works, they publish it. It's free for the world to look at. So it's a really good example of making that happen. Particular piece I like about this one here about adaptive leadership, which fits in with the inclusivity and diversity thing, is the organisational justice situation. And that we organise our organisations so that everyone's voice has a place in the conversation, which is what they're saying, so that everybody can be heard. And again, many things that happen around us really are only inclusive to certain groups of people. And that might be done by language. It might be done by the way the meetings are organised. And I think when Michelle talks next week, she'll talk about some of the challenges in local government that, women particularly, and the way women choose to run their lives is not really conducive with the way male-dominated councils have chosen to plan meetings and agendas and visits and timing and all bunch of stuff like that. So really want to try and encourage and get as many people on board and included in our conversations as possible. Lucky last bit of diversity here. There's a whole bunch of words there that diversity impacts in terms of what can work well for organisations, and it helps address some of the points we've already raised tonight in terms of things we'd like to see in organisations that we work for or represent us in the community, as it would be as well. And the last stat down the bottom there, which is by McKinsey, again, a global management consultant firm, which has got very good research and information as well. Some of the stuff they did in 2015-16 pointed out that organisations that just have some small level of gender, so in that case it was women in male-dominated spaces, and ethnic diversity, will outperform others by nearly a quarter, so 25%. So the numbers support diversity as being a really cool thing. So when you run into organisations and businesses that kind of lack diversity, you know that they're probably going to be struggling to find solutions in our really rapidly changing, crazy environment. And you can click on those couple of links as well to further get the details on that story as well. A couple of pieces just to finish off on decision making. We've done a lot of work on this recently for Department of Agriculture. A few bits that I've read, and they're on the reading list there, is a particular focus on being curious, not judgmental. And one of the things that happens to us when we're being judgy about things, which we tend to be, because judgy is a shortcutting mechanism for decision making. When we see a red Ferrari go past, we might go, well, that's a wealthy person, or it's a fast driver, or he's probably breaking the rules. So we judge them based on that. It doesn't leave us open to the other options to say what's going on there. There might be a kid with a cancer thing getting a red kite ride in a Ferrari or something like that. And so we need to be very careful about that. And so one of my challenges for you during this course is to consciously try to be more curious. Tomorrow morning, you're going to run into people you haven't met before, or doing different things you haven't. And it might be very quick and, in fact, very effective for you to be a little bit judgy about what's going to happen next. But I beg you to be kind of more open-minded and curious about that. Ask curious questions. Ask things that will lead on to a further conversation, so you can learn more about the people in front of you or the situation that's in front of you to make that happen as well. Excellent. And I do apologize, I've been talking a lot tonight. This week for you guys, homework, for those who are interested in doing a little bit of homework, this is your discovery. I've got 3 things for you to have a look at, which is part of that goal I wrote a little earlier for you. So there's a tool, which is just a fun tool, 16personalities.com. Don't put too much weight in it. It's not like doing a Myers-Briggs or a Jung test in terms of who you are. It just gives you some basic details and some personas who are like your whatever you score at. So have a look at 16personalities.com. Bring the results with you next week. We won't discuss them on an individual basis. I'll probably do mine and we can discuss mine to see what's out there. And the thing I would like to get out of that for everybody is that we work out that, we have some certain traits that we are more comfortable with, and that other people who we might consider quite like-minded to us actually operate quite differently. Their mode of communication, their introverted versus extrovertedness might be quite different to ours, and it impacts the way we build relationships with people. Second one there is about emotional intelligence. And again, this is a free, pretty quick and easy emotional intelligence test. So again, we're not going to put a lot of weight in it, but it does help us understand where we might be on the 4 main parameters of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something we can all work on, tune up like going to the gym, and get some action happening on how we understand our own emotions, how we control our own emotions, how we understand other people's emotions, and how we thread all that together to have more positive relationships with the people that are out there. Last challenge for you is to go to your favorite social media channel, which everyone will have several, I'm sure. LinkedIn is a great source. Mojo Espresso is a guy called Ben Fro, who was Ash Barty's mindset coach. You'll find him on Instagram. Adam Grant, you'll find him on, I think, both Facebook and LinkedIn. And Leadership First is the example I showed you, which is a LinkedIn-based one as well. So click onto a few of those, get them into your morning email feed or into your social media feed. And out of that, you'll get some really cool things going on. Second last slide. This is the reading that I've been just chipping through. Maybe the last 18 months or so, there's a bunch of stuff in here. If you're a reader or if you're an audiobook listener and you're going on a bit of a road trip, get some of these downloaded, and there's a whole bunch of material there which will really enhance your leadership journey as well. That's in the deck. You can have a look at that at your leisure as well. And there you go. I'm going to wrap up with that. This slide here, this guy on the back here with the bald head, which is not me with the yellow glasses. His name is Seth Godin. He's an American author also. And his big thing is about shipping it or go make something happen. And so I really like the ethic of that. And I want you all to go make something happen this week. And I'll look forward to hopefully capturing you back here again next week. And we'll continue chatting about everything that's got to do with leadership and your capability and your confidence to be a player in that space as well. So thank you very much for your attendance. Really appreciate that. I'm going to open up to questions in 1 sec. I'll just turn the recording off. People like to have that off when we're done. So I look forward to seeing you all again next week.